Hello my dear friends, you wanna know how to create your own custom brush? Well, today I'm gonna cover the brush topic like no one has done before. You don't believe me? Then watch this video and you'll see. Okay, I'm gonna talk about how we can choose a brush for our stroke. To begin, let me draw a pink rectangle for my background. Then I'm gonna draw a white circle. I'm holding down the Alt and Shift. And then I hit Q to select my shape. And then you have to click on here. In the brush setting window, you can select your brush. I'm gonna begin with a heart. And let's click on OK. And because it's too small, we can change this value to something like 256. Or maybe less than this. Yeah, this should be good. Then I go back to brush setting. I'll explain about this value later, but for now, let me set it to 0. If I click on here, you can align your images with your path. It says curve here, but no matter your path is a smooth path or a sharp path, in any cases, your images can align with your path. So now let's talk about this value. If you change it, you can see that it adds some variation to the angle of every image. But using this value, you can do something more than adding some variation. But to learn that, first we have to talk about brush angle drift. As you can see, this value is 0 here now. As soon as you change it, you can see that the value of brush jitter angle is not going to do anything like adding some variation to your images. So if I change this value more, you can see that the brush angle drift is going to consider one of the points of the path as the start point, which in this case, that point is here. And then as you go through your path, it's going to rotate your images more. That's why it rotates the last image more than the previous one, and so on. So now, because this value is not 0, brush jitter angle is going to rotate every single image by the same amount. See? And the ideal way of working with these two values is to set this value to -360. Uncheck this one. And then you can change this value to create your custom brush. By changing this value, you can change the space between every single image. Right now, if I render my project, none of these images are going to be rotating. The first reason is this option is being checked. The second reason is this value is not 0. So we set it to 0. So now through the animation, every one of these images are going to rotate by this number. So be careful, because if you set this value to 0, none of them are going to rotate through the animation. So let's say we want them to rotate through the animation. We can type here, for example, 30, any value rather than 0. And then we have to make sure this value is 0. And then you have to uncheck this option. And click on OK. And now it's time to render our project. Let's go to File, Export Animation. I'm going to export 48 frames of it. So I type 48 here. Then you choose Video. And choose the address to save your animation. Click on Select Folder. Type the name of your file. And click on OK. You saw them rotating. If you want them to rotate more, you can go to brush setting and increase this value. One thing about brushes is that they can contain more images, not just one. For this heart brush, because it's a single image, this option is in gray. You can find some multi-brushes by looking for these 3 dots at the top left corner of them. I'm going to click on cancel and delete this shape. And then I'm going to use freehand tool. I'm holding down the Alt and dragging to the right to increase the size of my brush. And then I go to brush setting and select one of the multi-brushes. If I click on OK and draw, you can see that every multi-brush has a series of images. And by using them, Moho is going to put a series of images next to each other to create your stroke. I'm going to hit Ctrl Z. Another thing is that you can reduce the value of alpha here. For example, I type 30 and hit enter. And now if I draw, I can draw transparent strokes. You can try to draw strokes over and over. And because we have new strokes on top of the previous ones, you can see that it's getting darker. If I hit Ctrl R, you can see this darkness here. We can avoid our strokes to get dark by going to brush setting. Let me select all of the brushes by selecting the select shape tool and click on select all to select all of the strokes. And then I go to brush setting. And here, if you check merge alpha and click on OK, by holding down the Ctrl and press R, you can see that the darkness is gone and it tries to merge the strokes. So that's what merge your strokes option does. I'm gonna close this window. And as you know, this brush is black and white. That's why we can't use this option. What about this option? Because it's a multi-brush, it contains a series of images. And when you draw, it's gonna put them next to each other in some sort of order. So by checking or unchecking the random order, you can change the order of using every single image in your multi-brush. So I'm gonna explain this option. Let me choose a brush that has color. And if I check this one and click on OK, you can see that its color is black. It's because the color of the stroke is black right now. And if I change it to something like blue, then our images turn blue. Another thing is that you can see a preview of your brush here. Every time you click on your brush, you can set every of these values to its default value. And also, you can see that they're changing right now every time I click on here. But actually, it has nothing to do with your actual shape here. So please don't pay attention to changes that you see in the preview. And the last option is save brush. By using this option, you can first changing these values and then use it to save that brush. And then every time you load that brush into your project, the default values of it are going to be the values that you've set for it. Or another way of using this is to share the brushes with your friends. I'm going to talk about content folder right after this, but rather than this, you can choose a folder wherever you want and save your brush into that folder. Obviously, this one is for when you want to share your brush with your friends, and this one is for when you want to load that brush into your projects. And here you can choose a name for your brush. I'm going to click on cancel. And now let's talk about how we can create our own brush. So what is brush in Moho? In fact, it's a PNG or JPG image. Grayscale or not doesn't matter, but it has to be square. It can be non-square, but if you use non-square, the software is going to scale your image to make its width as same as its height. The resolution of the image is not important. You can have a 1080p image as your brush, so almost all image resolutions are acceptable. Note that if you want to use JPG format instead of PNG, you can only draw it in grayscale only and not multicolored. So it means that the tint brush using a stroke color is going to turn gray and you won't be able to change it anymore. And as you know, JPG photos are not transparent. So you may want to create a brush with lots of holes. In that case, PNG format is recommended. And now let's talk about create your own brush. To create your own brush, you have to choose an address to create your content folder. It's the address of where you want to save your brush. If you've done this before and you want to change the address, you can. So don't worry. As soon as you change your address, it's going to ignore the previous one. You can choose your content folder by going to Edit, Preferences, and boom, we have custom content folder. Click on it, choose an address wherever you want, choose select folder and click on OK. Now Moho is going to create a series of folders in that address. Then open your Explorer, right click on your brush and select copy. To copy the brush that you want to bring to Moho, go to the address of content folder. You're going to find Moho Pro in that address. Go to it, then go to brushes folder. For every brush, you have to create a new folder and paste your brush into that folder. Close Moho and open it again. Go to brush setting, and then you will have the brush. A nice feature in Moho is that by changing the name of your brushes folder, you can set default values for your brush setting. And then every time you choose the brush setting values is going to be the same values that you set it for its folder's name. I'll show you how. Try to rename your brushes folder and first type the actual name that you want to call your brush. Then you type underline and type 1 if you want to align your brush with your curve. If not, type 0. Then type underline again. Type the value of your brush jitter angle. We have an underline here. We're going to skip drift angle here. And here you have to type the value of brush spacing. Remember that it's based on percent, so don't type values less than 0, but you can go over 100. Again, type underline. If you want to check minimize frame to frame randomness, type 1. If not, type 0. Another underline. For having tint brush checked, you type 1 here, unless type 0. Underline. This is for random order option. If you want it checked, type 1, unless type 0. Then you type another underline. This one is for your brush angle drift, so type any value that you want, and that's it. If you want, you can add another underline and another value and repeat that to infinity, but it doesn't make any difference. And after the 7th underline and 7th value, it's gonna ignore the rest of the name. What it actually looks for is the first underline that you type in your folder's name. So be careful not to use any underline unless you want to set the default values for your brush setting. It is not necessary to type all of these 7 values. You can type only the first value, or the first and second, or the first 3 values, or up to 7. But you can't type the second value only, or the third value only. It's impossible, because when you type something like this, the value that comes after the underline must be the first value, which is going to determine the value of align brush with curve. Now that we have our folder with current name, we have to close and open the Moho to reload the brush. And you can see the default values here. To create an actual multi-brush, you can paste your other images inside the folder next to your first image and close and open the Moho to reload the brush with new images. If you change your images in your content folder, you're not going to immediately see the same changes in the software. To do that, you have to close the software and open it again to reload the changes that you've made. I believe that after watching this video, you're not gonna have any problem with creating your custom brush, but maybe you have. So why not sharing it with me in the comment section? I'll definitely check it out. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye for now, and I hope to see you again soon.